advisors and his MAGA base. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are both facing major blowback from their own supporters for not only backing, but encouraging offering more visas to highly skilled foreign workers. Over the Christmas holiday, Musk posted this online saying, think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. He later added, I'm referring to bringing in, via legal immigration, the top 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning. He's talking about H-1B visas, which allow employers to hire highly skilled foreign workers. Musk, who himself is from South Africa, said that he once had this kind of visa, and he's arguing that Silicon Valley is facing a shortage of excellent engineering talent, as he put it. But the annual cap on those kinds of visas right now is at $65,000, with another $20,000 for those who get a master's or a doctorate in the U.S. Musk is being backed up by his partner in Trump's government efficiency initiative, Vivek Ramaswamy. He says it's a cultural issue that there aren't more competitive engineers in the U.S. Here's what he said online. A culture that celebrates prom queen over the math camp, jock over the valedictorian, will not produce the best engineers.
Jeez.
A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. But that argument is not going over well.
All right. I gotta send the nuke on this one.
Warning, enemy nuke has been launched. Repeat, enemy nuke has been launched.
Like, guys, the whole, okay, a couple things with the H-1B visas. And I know for most people out there, they're not going to see this as like an issue for everybody. And it truly is an issue for everyone. So I was just having this conversation with other people, and people are still not understanding why H-1B visas are just ultimately, if you right now, there's a cap limit of how many can be approved, and a majority of the H-1 visas are being or the applicants are from India. And so when you have the H-1B visas, and I don't think that with the H-1B visas, I think they have a purpose. And I think to some degree that the companies are telling the truth about, even Elon Musk is like, this is for the 0.1%. Here's the thing. These same companies are the same companies that were telling us that DEI is important. These are the same companies that said you need to have pronouns. So all of a sudden, and right now we're seeing those companies roll back this whole DEI initiative. Like multiple companies are rolling it back. It's no longer cool to be a DEI friendly company. But this H-1 visa, we're supposed to take their word for it. We're supposed to say, hey, you know what? We're not finding these American workers that have this type of talent, this 0.1% talent. And again, when it comes to H-1B visas, they're only allowing, I think, I want to say 60 or 80,000 a year that get approved. And so when you are saying that you can't find these Americans that can actually do this job, you're simply, to me, it's a form of DEI. It's probably the cousin of DEI. I had like a bunch of posts on this stuff. But when it comes to the H-1B visas, they're lying. I'm not going to take I'm not listening to these companies, corporate companies, that includes Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, when it comes to like how they view DEI. Vivek was right to say, there's not a, I guess the word I'm looking for is like an emphasis on when it comes to STEM stuff. We have a lot of like useless classes that a lot of kids go through, and colleges don't help. They give you a lot of worthless degrees. But when it comes to like STEM stuff, there probably should be like more of a focus on that though. But I believe we have the Americans that can actually do those jobs. What I think has happened is that the companies are just abusing the H-1B visa process, and you have too many people not having a really a good faith conversation about it. Unfortunately, they're trying to say this is like some form of racism. Nope, this is just a healthy discussion or disagreement in my case.
So I'll start off by saying, when it comes to immigration, I lean conservative. This is one of my more conservative issues. But that's illegal immigration. In this particular context, we're talking about legal immigration, which has many benefits to the United States. I shared an article. I shared three. The first one's from the Economic Policy Institute, and it breaks down all the benefits of immigration. But we'll just stick to a couple of these.
Which one is that?
There's a shortage.
Which one?
That's the first one, the very first one I sent you, epi.org. So the first thing that I want to call out is we have a shortage of doctors, dentists, and other highly skilled engineers, code writers, and ethical hackers in this country. So we have to import those. And this is going to lead to my second point. And I've said this before. Vivek kind of sugarcoated it, but this country is getting dumber. It's getting dumber. And I have things to substantiate that as well. The next two articles, one is from Yahoo News. It talks about in NCES, which is kind of, they do a lot of research around the education field, right? But essentially the takeaways from this are math and science scores are declining every single year since 2014 in this country. We're getting dumber. Nobody cares about math. And, to make it even worse, they changed the way they teach math. They use that Common Core stuff now, and none of us learned it that way. So our kids can't come home and ask us for help because we only know how to do math the way we were taught. So there's lots of things going on here, but ultimately the takeaway is we're getting dumber. We don't put enough emphasis on math and science. We don't do enough emphasis on STEM and AI and computer science and coding. And all we do is everybody wants to either go to the league, be an entertainer of some kind. It's just things that don't require high level of thought. So we need to get to a space where we're rewarding the people who want to do something in math and science. How many parents also are sending their kids off to college knowing that they want to study a BS degree? How many?
Yeah, probably majority of them.
I'm curious to see if there's a survey out there of what percentage of students are working in the industry that they study for in college. I guarantee you that there's going to be some interesting results there. But other countries are outperforming us and they're taking education more seriously. Meanwhile, you have people who are coming over here from countries and they're all these things that we have in this country, they don't take them for granted like we do. And also, let's keep it 100. Most of them aren't fat like we are in the United States.
Yeah.
So we have a whole bunch of things that we don't care about here. And we're just like, well, let's just let somebody else do it. Well, how about you get in there and you do it? How about we push out more doctors that were born here in the States? Or here's another area where there's a shortfall: law enforcement. Can you imagine if they start bringing in immigrants who aren't really familiar with how things work here to work in law enforcement?
They
Like,
kind of
it'll just be disastrous. But yeah, they're doing it now. And New York's not the only city where they're doing it.
Chicago.
But again, these are things that the thing with immigrants, they always say is, well, they're doing jobs that no one wants to do. Well, these jobs are a necessity. Medical care is a necessity. Law enforcement is a necessity. So I look at this as us being lazy and taking for granted some of the freedoms and liberties that we have here. And the only reason why I'm so familiar with this is because I was that person at one point. I had to get my life together before I took my finance studies seriously. And a lot of other people do it too.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and you've hit on some great points too, because you're absolutely right when it comes to like what Americans care about. Really, we're talking in that case, I think it's more on the masses. I think there's like an elite, there's different tiers. And so for the masses, for the parents that have not given their kids focus, and for the kids that have not woken up, because honestly, we have schools fighting to teach kids or do drag queen story hour. We have schools that are allowing kids to kind of express themselves, but if you express yourself like where you're on the MAGA side or the Trump side, they're trying to silence those voices. So yeah, school, there definitely needs to be a referendum on schools. And also this kind of is a that's shining the spotlight on the Department of Education. I mean, why is the Department of Education not emphasizing the STEM side of things? Why is the Department of Education not, especially when it's California schools versus schools in Mississippi? To me, that was probably going to be a different experience. So I get the whole point that as Americans, we're not focusing on stuff like that, or we're not making it a priority. That still doesn't explain why you still have to go get talent outside of the U.S. Because you're telling me that there's not, and like I said, the number is like 60 to 80,000 people are on that list. Did you know that when it came to like H-1B approvals, Biden approved 98% of those applicants. And then when I looked at the numbers when Trump did it, Trump only approved about 75% of those applications. So why is there such a big difference between what Trump did again, and if you do it the other way, he declined 25%, where Biden only declined 2% of those applications? Like, what happened between the Trump economy where we needed to have those type of, or we didn't need as many of those individuals, but in the Biden economy, the Biden administration, we need those individuals, because that's a big difference. And then you also have to explain, or you have to say, like, did Biden do something right, and then Trump do something wrong? Because again, Trump declined 25% of those applications. So who's right and wrong in this situation, though? Because that's the conversation I don't think people are really willing to have, because to me, it doesn't make any sense. You're telling me that those people don't exist. I think those people do exist, because some of these companies have fired those workers and for the benefit of hiring foreign work or foreign help. So you had those workers there. Why did you fire those workers? So you would hire, I think Disney is the one that did it. They did it like probably about, I think it was like 2014, 2015 when it happened. But Disney is one of the few companies that did it. And there's some other companies, but they fired people and hired foreign workers.
Yeah, I'm gonna make 2 points real quick. Going back to what I said. So education now, and you hit on this too. It's more feelings based as opposed to the essentials. So even with, I was watching Sesame Street the other day with my daughter. There's a lot more conversations on there about feelings and how to process them, as opposed to the basic foundations of reading and math and basic science. I'm gonna come back to that military thing in just a second.
Yeah.
But even when we were kids, we had TV shows like Mr. Wizard, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Reading Rainbow. We had programs that incentivized us to read, like the Book It program. I don't even know if stuff like that still exists, honestly. But it's a huge shift when you watch these kids shows today, and it's all feelings based as opposed to the basic math, reading, and science foundations they need. That's number one. Number two, you showed the military article I just posted. What we're also not talking about is there's a rise in immigrants that are joining the U.S. military. Why? Because more and more Americans are too unfit to serve. They're either unfit or they don't want to serve. You'll sit here and will reap the advantages of being in this country, but a lot of us are too fat to serve. So that now we have to fulfill another need. So this is a failure on our society. You can't just sit back and point fingers and blame. Like, I don't know how you can fix this, because there's so many layers to what we're talking about right now. But what I do know is if you are going to go to college, you can't be studying something that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, if your degree is not related to STEM or STEM adjacent to some degree, you kind of wasted your time.
Yeah.
And you just took on a whole bunch of student debt that you probably aren't going to pay back before your life cycle ends.
Let's see if I can find this article. But
Priorities.
Yeah, there was I think it was Iowa State, but some colleges are actually getting rid of a lot of their DEI programs, and you got people that are just losing their mind on, especially people on the left, and they're like, we need these programs. These programs are the least enrolled programs or degree programs, and then also a lot of these professors, teachers in these programs are overpaid. So you're getting state money to kind of shape the minds or teach these people or these kids how to think versus, or what to think versus how to think. And so that's part of the problem as well too. But this is the other thing, like I said earlier, is that why did Trump decline 25% of those HB1 visa applications? I think Trump, like when he was campaigning, he's definitely on America First initiative. And when people are making this pushing for, we need more. I'm okay with if you want to keep it where it's at or even reduce the number of applicants, but it needs to be reviewed, because I think these companies are scamming Americans when it comes or scamming America, really. But I think they're scamming America though because they're not really being honest about the people they can find or they cannot find. I looked at a lot of these H-1B visa jobs that are out there, and the majority of them are over six figures. Some of them are well over like 200,000, 300,000. I mean, it's very. I mean, you could find like a couple of those jobs on there if you focus on those positions. But what I think what happens is that they don't want to hire. Here's why I don't think they don't want to hire Americans. And specifically, this really is more for white men, though, because the majority of these jobs, these engineering or tech jobs, generally white men go into these programs. And sometimes you get black men going into them. But if white men are being pushed out of it, then that only means black men are being pushed out as well, too. So that's a conversation I think people are not willing to have at this moment, though. But you look at some of these jobs, I mean, I can't imagine like we don't have at least 60,000 people that are qualified for these roles for these companies. I just don't think it's possible. I think we have enough smart people. I don't think they want to pay them, or at least they want to have their services for more than 2 to 5 years, because I think those visas only last for 2 years unless they get renewed or something. So I think that's more of the issue. And then some of these jobs for the H-1B recipients, they're not just for engineering jobs or medical jobs. They're also for like, cooking jobs as well too. Or, I forget I saw one that was pretty egregious. It was like a marketing job. I was like, you don't need you don't need outside foreign help. We have plenty of marketing people. I say it on LinkedIn all the damn time. Like, you don't need to go outside the country to find someone that can do marketing in the United States. And this information is widely available. This is probably one of the, one of the worst kept secrets. And this is no shot at like Indian Americans coming over, especially, just to do a job and everything. Hey, I'm fine with that. Like, that's okay. But when it comes to like people having this conversation, first of all, you can't be calling people racist. They just want to have this conversation where you are saying for America to get better, you need more immigrants. And it's like, okay, fine, I can understand that if you are being honest about it. But like I said earlier, these companies, I refuse to believe that these companies have the best interest when it comes, or whenever they're saying anything like they can't find the workers, because that's the same lie that they use for DEI. They said they couldn't find enough, workers that were non-white or or straight or whatever. They said they couldn't find those workers. That's the whole premise of DEI. So you're telling me you cannot find these workers for these six-figure tier jobs? We got people that are looking for work, or people that are. I mean, I think these people are qualified, because across the country for the last 4 years, you're telling me you have to approve at least 60,000 people. I just don't buy into that, honestly. I think we have the workers here. I just think these companies, and maybe that's the question, do you believe these companies are telling the truth about them not being able to find the workers for at least like I said, for every year they need at least 60,000 get approved? Do you believe these companies are not finding these workers? MC.
The day I believe any corporation is the day I completely self-mutilate myself and change genders, which is never going to happen. Look, I learned the hard way. Corporations look out for themselves.
Facts.
And one of the biggest that's the goal. Like, a corporation will publicly donate funds, and I'm familiar with quite a few that did this. They will donate funds to an LGBT friendly organization, but then on the flip side, they'll submit funds into a PAC that supports a conservative campaign.
Yeah.
So they play both sides.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to take a corporation on this word, because they don't have to disclose everything to you. They just have to disclose critical things, and they can kind of stretch the truth a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to go back on something you said earlier, because I just pulled an article from the visa firm, Price Benowitz, which is a known legal representation for immigration. Some of the most common reasons that these H-1Bs get rejected are inadmissible reasons of prior immigration violations, criminal history, and they lied about the occupation that they are trying to get into. Because the United States would typically say, here's the occupations we need people, send me the applications of those that qualify for these particular occupations. And a lot of these people will lie about their qualifications, kind of like how somebody lies on a resume for a job.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. And not submitting them in a timely manner is a big one too. So I just wanted to call that out.
Well,
but ultimately, Vivek,
Well, real
Go
quick,
ahead.
you bring up a good point about them lying about the qualifications. Is it reasonable to believe that none of these H-1B visa recipients have? I mean, they don't ever get fired. They don't ever get fired for doing a poor job, because the conversation that I keep hearing, that these are just some of
Yeah.
the elite talent. Well, are they getting fired? Because nobody wants to have that conversation. Even at the companies I've worked with where they had visas, there was a guy who worked there, and he was in a visa situation, and what he did was, I mean, they thought they had a commitment because I think there's a financial commitment to the visas, but he ended up like quitting to go work for another company that sponsored his visa. So, and I probably got the whole setup wrong, but I know for a fact he quit to go work at another company, and they were like really upset that he had left, and not because of there's just a person leaving or something, because of the whole visa situation. And so I think there needs to be some additional investigation, though, because maybe they don't have the qualifications, or maybe there's some criminal nefarious. But how are you going to check that if they're coming from India or from a different country? How are you going to check that if they committed crimes?
Yeah.
There's no, I mean, I guess there is a national
That's
registry or something, but are they really giving that information? Because for India, it's good for them to get those people, to get their citizens out of the country into another country, and then also you're getting all that funding, getting all that money. Maybe you're sending back home or something. Like, you're not bringing everybody over.
It's funny you mentioned that the registry thing. I was listening to an interview with Tom Homan. I think he was on Tucker Carlson, and one of the issues that he said from his side that they were running into, because he was the true border czar for Democrats and Republicans for a long time.
Yeah.
These other countries don't disclose criminal history. So you don't know what these people were doing before they even got here. I mean, you can probably have an easier time getting some information from someone coming from India than someone who's coming from El Salvador or
Mhm.
Russia or something like that, because they don't disclose that stuff. There is no national registry. It's optional to share it with the United States. And most of the times they don't. So it's kind of a gamble. But these work visas, they're only good for 3 years. You can get an
Okay.
extension for another 3 years under special circumstances. But another immigration problem we have in this country is a lot of people, when these visas expire, they don't leave, they stay.
Oh, the H-1B.
So in essence, you were here legally. Yeah. Once they expire, they don't apply for renewal. They don't leave. They just stay. So in essence, you were here legally at one point, but now you're kind of flirting with that illegal immigration thing.
Whoa, wait, are you serious? Like, how do they track that? Or who's tracking it? How do they get them out?
That that's some of the debates that's going on in right
Uh,
now. Yeah, I mean, if you're working with a U.S. based employer, you have to disclose how many of these people that you're employing.
yeah,
But let's say your visa expires and you're on a short term contract with this company anyway, you can't go back and work for them. But you also technically, who's enforcing you to make sure that you leave if
yeah.
you
No
don't
one's enforcing
renew or find employment? Or if you didn't, or while you're having this work visa and you're applying for actual citizenship and you're not done with that yet, so you're just sitting in limbo and none of this stuff has been done.
it.
You're
See,
not a citizen, you're not working anymore, but nobody's following up with these people and making sure they do these things. Or if
God,
they opt not to go through the process, nobody's making sure that they're leaving either.
yeah. This
So
is
this is something that's been talked about for a long time and no one's done anything about
Yeah, I actually I wasn't aware how bad H1 how they can be corrupted, but or how companies can use them, but that's a whole nother conversation. I didn't think about that though, because I was like, yeah, I thought you just left, but though, I mean, considering how our current immigration process works with illegals, yeah, no one's probably paying attention, which is a whole nother conversation and not enough time, unfortunately.
I'm gonna end on this because something else I learned today too is when we talk about immigration, we tend to only put it in comparison to the southern border. But
Yeah.
the northern border is a problem too. And I heard Tom Homan talk about this today too. There's a lot of Russians and people from Turkey and Pakistan who are coming in this country, and China. They're coming in this country illegally through the northern border.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, we got off topic a little bit, but that's just something I recommend you watch the Tom Homan interview with Tucker Carlson, because Tucker lets him talk and logically explain why he's doing the things that he's doing. And it's a good watch.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out too. So all right, next topic.